This is Total Retail Tech Insights.
The content retail executives need to optimize their use of technology throughout their organizations.
Hello, welcome to this episode of Total Retail Tech Insights. I'm Joe Keenan, the editor-in-chief of Total Retail. I am here at Commerce Next, the growth show in New York City, and I am pleased to be joined on today's episode by Rachel De Los Santos. Rachel is the Senior Director of Client Success at ESW. We're going to talk to Rachel about how brands can strategically optimize their inventory, particularly in a volatile time like now with shifting trade policies. There's obviously supply chain constraints. Consumer behavior is continuously evolving, so an interesting time to be talking to you, Rachel. So I want to thank you and welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I'd love to kind of get started by having you tell us a little bit about your role at ESW and kind of describe a little bit about the work you do with your retail clients.
Yep. So as Senior Director of Client Success, my role centers on serving as a strategic partner to our worldwide retail brands. I lead a team responsible for driving performance, growth, long-term value across the client's international e-commerce initiatives. This includes everything from strategic inventory positioning and advising them to market expansions around the globe. We service over 180 markets around the world. And we try to help them grow or expand into new markets all the time.
So maybe I'll follow up real quickly on that. And I think the audience a lot might be familiar with ESW, but maybe just a quick overview of the work that your organization does.
Yes. So our organization helps retail brands expand to worldwide markets. We have a checkout platform that helps with currency conversion, duties and tax calculations so that you can show those shoppers a fully landed price that's localized. And then we also have an entire payments team so that we have localized payments in those markets. And then just to do a little bit more, we do the logistics and the returns that nobody wants to deal with. So it is a full ecosystem to help brands be able to do worldwide e-commerce.
Yep, end to end.
End to end.
So as I alluded to when we first started our conversation, Rachel, I want to talk a little bit about how brands are dealing with with their inventory pricing, and obviously there's tariff pressures, there's disruptions in trade. So from your perspective, talk a little bit about what strategic inventory optimization looks like in today's environment, given some of those factors I cited.
Yeah, so because of the volatility of what is going on right now, the retailers that years ago started planning for some of this are probably ahead of the game. So I think that years ago, some retailers really had the insight to say, maybe we shouldn't manufacture everything in China, and have diversified to manufacture sometimes the same product, but in different markets around the world, whether it be Vietnam or Philippines or Thailand. The problem with that was that some of the tariffs are being impacted to those markets also.
Southeast Asia's.
Yep. Exactly. So even though they had that insight, and that piece of it is not an easy, kind of initiative to turn around. That takes time to move your manufacturing to a different market around the world. So, but those that had that insight now have options. And I believe that the big piece here to take away is you have to have the plan and the contingency plan and maybe even a plan C. And then I'll talk later a little bit more about how to use data and AI to figure out which of those plans is going to work for you by modeling out, certain things and consumer behavior and consumer demands. But today, those retailers who've done that, they can now very quickly pivot and shift and say, let's move more of the manufacturing to Thailand, or let's move more of the manufacturing to India, or maybe it's somewhere in Europe, in Germany. And that gives them an option to be able to, when, there's no more the one place to manufacture, but maybe you're manufacturing in multiple places. And then that country of origin, which is the kind of the key to the tariffs, is then different country of origins. And then you figure out in your model and what markets you're going to serve, where should you be getting that inventory from? So if you can make it in Europe and keep it in Europe and localize it, I have clients who have inventory in the Netherlands, and the Netherlands will service all of the EU, the Nordics, and maybe even a couple of other, countries there. So that is being manufactured in Europe, staying in Europe. The tariffs are different. The cross-border in EU is a much simpler way to move around product. And then they'll have a different strategy for APAC. And in APAC, they might be moving the product from China to maybe a Singapore or someplace else, or Hong Kong, and then fulfill the APAC markets there, and Australia and New Zealand. So, geography, now we have the East Coast and the West Coast covered. The US is still a problem for some of these manufacturers and some of these retailers. I've seen some of them moving product into Mexico to service Mexico and LATAM, and then moving product into Canada. And my conversation with a lot of my retailers, unfortunately, is for the US, it's going to be the US consumers that are going to be paying for this when these tariffs continue to impact bringing the product into the US. So again, and then the strategy is figuring out how can you diversify where you're holding inventory, where you're manufacturing inventory, and then using, again, data. Later I'll talk about data and AI to figure out these different models so that you can figure out which is the one that's the most cost effective.
And being able to be flexible and kind of being able to move quickly here is critical. And I like that you talked about, and we're going to talk, as you noted, about the role of AI in terms of helping create those forecasting models that can enable you to make smarter decisions longer term. And then really it's about minimizing that exposure, the risk exposure, right? It's a constantly evolving environment, trying to stay ahead of it and using tools such as AI to help you minimize your risk. With that said, let's talk a little bit about, in your work, what you see is some of the kind of common missteps that brands and retailers are making when it comes to their inventory management and their worldwide fulfillment. Where are they being challenged? Where are they kind of tripping up? And we can maybe potentially talk through that, and then also maybe solutions for that as well.
Yeah. So I think some of the common mistakes is sometimes to use maybe a regional average of what the demand might be in that market. I think that you really need to look at it at a localized level to be able to have the right inventory at the right place, right? So the just in time, at the right time, being there so that you don't have, a demand and you're out of stock, or that you have a surplus in those areas. So I think that trips up some of the retailers sometimes, because with this plan, again, it's having, like you said, you need to be flexible and be able to pivot. Yeah. Sometimes the plans are created because it's not easy to move where you're holding large quantities of inventories with a large assortment of SKUs. So it's sometimes that mistake of having too much or too little in those markets, or it could also be a pricing strategy mistake. Some of my retailers, we work with them, ESW will work with them to look at all the data of where the pricing is, the right to be in the right market. And when we talk about like the EU, where, there's a cluster of countries very close to each other, difficult to have variance of prices between, Portugal and Spain when they're next to each other, and that shopper doesn't understand why there's a difference in price. So we help them with that, and we help them with the data to make sure that the right inventory is at the right place.
So following up on that in terms of being able to help your clients, particularly around anticipating and forecasting those demand shifts, the different markets that you're serving, while also not trying to create overstock situations where they're then holding on to inventory. Obviously, there's cost associated with that. So trying to keep that lean inventory model as well. Talk a little bit about the work that you're doing with your clients at ESW.
Yeah, so we will help them with forecasting and using like AI modeling. Also, our duties and tax calculator, depending on the HS code, which determines the category of the product, we use that to collect all that data, and as tariffs are changing in different markets, we will use that calculator to model out different models for them. So they can see if the tariffs go up or if they go down, depending on which country we're holding the inventory, the country of origin, and then which countries they're going into. We can model out all of that for them and then create different forecast models. And then really we work with our clients to understand their marketing strategy. Also, what I've learned through the years of working at ESW, every country has a different holiday calendar, and what's celebrated in one place or might really be a great marketing moment in Asia doesn't resonate in the EMEA markets. So we work with them to understand what that calendar looks like and then add that into the models. And now we have options to look at. And we really partner with our clients to understand where can they make changes, where can they make investments, and where can we help with more insight and more data to help them make the right decisions so that they are growing and are being successful in these markets.
So I know our audience and myself as well, love to hear kind of real world examples, use cases, case studies. Is there one that you might be able to share, Rachel, in terms of how your team at ESW has helped a retail client either pivot or solve a complex inventory challenge?
We've helped clients kind of do exactly what we were talking about at the beginning. So I have a client that's holding inventory in the Netherlands, and they're using that for all of their EMEA markets, and the Nordics, so Switzerland and Norway and all of that. Now, they're moving inventory and investing into moving inventory into Canada, and they're moving inventory into Mexico at the moment because the market is large enough for them that they see that as a viable solution. So ESW, we're helping with the fulfillment side of it. We have a great global return portal where the shoppers can just put in their email address and order number and select the reason they're returning the product and which products they're returning. And it gives us a pre-alert to our return centers. And we can even give in that return portal to the shoppers a prepaid return label. So it's a great one-stop, returns is painful for folks, but when you have the inventory in different markets around the world servicing them, then that return can go there. The shopper can get their refund much faster, and the product, if it's in good condition, can go right back into inventory at that facility. So it's not the case. Not everybody has these local, inventory positions, so they can take the inventory back. And we help clients with that too, where we have over 8 return centers all over the world, so we can localize the return for those regions. And we refund the customer right away within the 24 to 48 hours. And then we'll take that product and bulk return back to the retailer of their warehouse of choice. That is for more of a cross-border model where things are moving around the world and not really localized. So both ways we try to help our clients so, customer has the best shopper experience when it comes to a return.
And how about on the front end of that in terms of the fulfillment? I know you do the fulfillment work as well.
Yeah.
As you think about consumer expectations for delivery speed now,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, very important.
So maybe you could just talk a little bit about that, particularly as, depending on where the inventory lands and is being held.
Yeah. There's a couple of initiatives that we've done at ESW in the last couple of years with our logistics team. We have a very strong logistics operations and logistics technology team. And what we've implemented is sub-region estimated delivery dates. So sub-region EDDs, because we love a good acronym, in Canada. So what we learned was that there's all these regions in Canada, and when you try to set an EDD for the country of Canada, it becomes really wide range because you have these remote areas up where 2 people order something up in the north of Canada, and then you have your British Columbia side, you have the east side, and it wasn't a great shopper experience because we were saying, oh, your product's going to get there in 5 to 15 days, and folks were like, what do you mean? We're getting stuff into Toronto in 3 to 4 days. So our team worked very diligently to create the sub-region EDDs by postal codes. and we were able to implement that into our checkout. So depending on your region and your postal code, we could give you a much more accurate EDD, and we saw conversions increase for these folks, and a growth in sales in the Canadian market. And now we're implementing it into other markets, like big countries like Australia, Mexico. We're doing that there now, and we think that the shopper reaction has been fantastic.
Yeah, it gives them the level of transparency when they can expect their order to be delivered. A better status, they're more likely to be satisfied with the experience, which then obviously could potentially lead to repeat purchases. So it's kind of had that cyclical effect. You alluded to the fact that you will talk a little bit about technology, in particular data and AI. So let's jump into that. Tell us a little bit about the role that AI, and in particular predictive AI, can play in ESW's approach to helping your retailers manage global inventory, particularly under the changing tariff conditions that we've talked about that seem to change daily. So love to get your thoughts there.
Yeah, using AI is just really become a key for us to help our clients quickly, right? Model it again, and have more than one option. It's never going to be one size fits all for all of our clients. So it's feeding into that AI model, where their inventory is sitting. Like I alluded to before, where's the country of origin? What could that tariff look like in 180 markets, right? So the AI piece has just made that so much faster to be able to model the predictive tariff conditions, the volume, the demand that you might be seeing in some of these markets, also the country of origin, and how that might impact if you're able to change that to be something else. It's just become a different place to be able to model very quickly, instead of someone sitting with spreadsheets and trying to make sure all the data is right and the formula worked out. Is using that. And again, the right inventory just in time at the right place by using historical data and feeding that into the AI, and then putting these what if scenarios, and figuring out how many of those can you predict. I know we can't really predict what's going to happen with tariffs, or because I've been shocked when I've seen some of the things that have happened, but I think we can't be shocked anymore. We really have to think of possibly everything that could happen and try to feed it into these AI models and try to see what that gives us out. And it's really data-driven decision making, but being able to use the AI to give you different options to be able to model out everything that could possibly happen.
A follow-up on that, in terms of, so ESW is able to provide these tools to the retail clients. I'd love to, in your conversations with your clients within the retail organizations, maybe it is a collaborative effect. Who is most likely to be leveraging those tools? Is it the merchant teams? Is it your supply chain teams? Maybe it's a combination of several different groups. What are you hearing from your clients in terms of how they're using them internally, and the level of collaboration that needs to happen?
Yeah, definitely. The logistics teams are always involved in these conversations, because we do the outbound logistics and we do the return logistics, and we want to, and I want to say, especially during holiday. So, come August or September, we start doing holiday planning, and we start asking about historical data. We start looking at what their forecast is for this year. We look at the marketing plans and what investments being made in that area. So the marketing team gets involved, the logistics team gets involved. Customer service teams get involved, because we want the customer service team also to understand, what are we modeling out here? What could happen? Is it an avalanche of calls that are going to be coming into that call center? Or is there going to be a quiet period before the sale? They need to be able to staff up and be ready for these changes. And when we're talking about inventory in different parts of the world, we're talking about customer service that needs to be able to service different languages, different markets, different consumer behavior. They expect a different type of response, or I want to say in APAC, there's a certain way that they expect to be spoken to or addressed as a customer or a shopper in certain markets. So all of that has to be taken into consideration. And then I always bring in my payments teams into these conversations, because if there's going to be an influx, I want my fraud team and my payments team to know, like, that's not a mistake. We really did have 2 million orders, on a Black Friday in some market, or 11/11, was impactful. I don't want the fraud team to block any orders that it might have been good. I want our payments team to be prepared to answer questions and to be able to react to the market. So I love I say, put everybody on the bus. And if you want to get off, you ring the bell and then you get off the bus.
Right, and it's a trickle-down effect that you've talked about.
Everybody's impacted. Yeah. Everybody's impacted. We're talking about inventory and we're talking about the shopper, but everybody plays a role in this kind of strategy for it to be really successful. I want my customer service team to know. I want my payments team. I want my logistics technology team to know. I want my logistics operations team to know. And then I have a return team. I want them to know, because if there's that kind of volume, there's the 30-day later after effect that I want to make sure that they can support and that they can handle, and that we're handling it efficiently and in the best way, cost efficiently as we can. So
it all starts with the inventory.
All starts with the inventory.
So we're here at Commerce Next, and when I come to these events, there's so much activity. There's so many different technology providers in attendance, and it kind of gets you thinking about what's to come. We're kind of right here, almost midpoint of the year, actually. So as you think ahead for the remainder of 2025, obviously Q4 critical for so many retail organizations. What are the trends that you would advise our audience of retailers to be paying attention to be watching when it comes to inventory optimization and cross-border e-commerce?
So definitely AI. I mean, it's been a buzz topic for years now, but I think that it's taken a while. I say it's the same thing as like the internet. We had the internet, but we didn't know exactly how to use it or how best to optimize it. And I think we've been talking about AI for several years, but I don't think everyone's figured out how to use it and optimize it to make sure that it's really doing the most it can for your business. So I think AI is still a piece that needs to be used effectively, and I think you need to vet out what is the right AI that you need to use to model out your forecasting and to figure out where you're going to hold inventory around the world. So that's definitely a trend. And then for ESW, we're working with our clients to say, should we move inventory to localize it? Can we do fulfillment? We do fulfillment, ESW fulfillment in a market to be able to move that inventory, where some retailers in the past, because we do cross-border so well, didn't think about that. Like, why would I move, all this inventory to service a market someplace else? But now that tariffs have come up, now there's another thought.
A new environment.
Yeah, it's a different thought process of, should I have my manufacturers split the inventory coming out of China or Thailand or Vietnam, and should half of it go directly into Europe and completely bypass the US? Should it go directly to Canada if you have a big enough market there? So things have changed, and again, how quickly, how agile, how quickly can you pivot? And sometimes there's a cost to that. And I think if you plan ahead of time, you can minimize those costs, and you can do it quicker if you have all those options already. Like I said at the beginning, plan A, plan B, but now we might even need to have a plan C.
Yeah, and you're feeding into that the data. It's able to make into the AI model. It's able to make decisions, at least help you make decisions more quickly with greater accuracy.
Yep.
And there's certainly cost benefits to doing that.
Yep.
So I know something that you've recently introduced to the ESW is multi-node fulfillment. given our conversation, maybe talk a little bit about how that can be beneficial to retailers as they're thinking about inventory strategy and inventory management.
Yeah, so this is great for our retailers who have brick and mortar stores or have multiple warehouses in a region or in a close by region. Our order management system can now use a multi-node, multi-hub fulfillment capabilities so that you can fulfill from either one warehouse or a second one, depending on how close it is to the shopper. So we can select the best place to fulfill the order from to get it faster and cheaper to the shopper. Or if they have brick and mortar stores and they're able to give us that insight and visibility to their inventory there and have the operational ability to do it, you can fulfill from the stores, you can fulfill from the warehouse, and then also we're helping some of our clients enable return in store. So that they can get the money back quicker, and so that the associates in those stores can interact with those shoppers and maybe sell them something else or execute an exchange. And it's all about that customer loyalty and the customer experience. So it is a big piece of the inventory. So we're not just looking at the warehouse inventory, but we're looking at the retailer's inventory wherever they have it all over the world.
Yeah, and it's that omni-channel behavior you're seeing from consumers. They want options, right? So
Yeah.
they want to be able to potentially bring back, if the store's on their way home from work and they have a return, I could just pop in, and to your point, there's potential for incrementality. You get that incremental purchase when they get in store, so there's value, and the retailer is offering that flexibility, whether it's returns, fulfillment as well.
Yeah, full omni-channel capabilities. That's another buzzword from years ago, right? Omni-channel, but not everyone does it, or not everyone does it well. And I think using today's technology, there's no reason to not have a robust omni-channel solutions for those retailers that have a brick and mortar and have multiple warehouses. It's the best way. Shoppers want to buy and return the way that they want to buy and return, and I think that retailers need to respond to that, and the market needs to respond to that.
Yeah, that's a great point. So for our audience of retail executives and brand executives, if you're looking to optimize your inventory strategy, particularly across worldwide markets, or you even just want to get a better sense of how to navigate today's trade environment, you can reach out to Rachel and the ESW team at growmybrand@esw.com. Rachel, I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of Total Retail Tech Insights. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
All right, thank you so much. I enjoyed it too. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Tech Insights is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Tech Insights.